she originally from Somalia? So how are they doing this? How's their government? Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? I love these people that come from a place with nothing, no anything, and then they tell us how to run our country.
Over the past week, U.S. President Donald Trump made headlines again, this time for comments he made about Somalia. In his speeches and social media posts, he described Somalia as a place with no government, no safety, no police, and basically nothing that makes a country stable.
Somalia, no government, no safety, no police, no nothing.
He painted it as a land full of poverty, hunger, terrorism, piracy, and violence. Now, for people who know Somalia's history, these words sound harsh, but they connect to real struggles. Since the early 1990s, Somalia has faced a civil war that broke down its central government. For years, rival groups controlled different areas, and that made it difficult to have the kind of strong government, police, or national security that other countries take for granted. Even today, Somalia is still rebuilding with help from international partners. There are government institutions, a president, and a parliament, but they are fragile, and the country still faces challenges from groups like Al-Shabaab and Islamic State fighters. But here's where Trump's words become even more controversial. He wasn't just talking about Somalia as a country far away. He used these remarks to attack Ilhan Omar, a U.S. Congresswoman who was born in Somalia. Omar's story is powerful. She was born in Mogadishu, lived through the Civil War, fled with her family to a refugee camp in Kenya, and later moved to the United States. She grew up in Minnesota, one of the largest Somali communities outside of Africa, and eventually entered politics. In 2019, she became the first Somali-American in Congress. Trump has been attacking her for years, often tying her political opinions back to her Somali background. Last week, after Omar criticized some conservative figures, Trump fired back. He questioned whether Somalia has a president, whether it has police, and suggested that it had nothing, no anything. He then asked how someone from such a place could lecture America on how to govern. He even tied her name to a fraud case in Minnesota, where 8 people were charged with stealing millions of dollars. He asked if she knew those people, and sarcastically wondered if they were from her wonderfully managed home country of Somalia. For Omar, these attacks weren't new. She replied by saying that she is proud to be Somali, proud of her heritage, and that no amount of insults could take that away from her. She also said that Trump and his allies are trying to silence her by using her background against her. And she promised not to back down from speaking out.
Faith, I do practice the Muslim faith. I am an immigrant. I am proud of both those things. And I was, of course, born in Somalia, which the president likes to mention. And I'm also proud of my Somali heritage, and that is not something that they can take away from me. And I just want to say, one thing that the president should understand is that you can't impeach a sitting member of Congress.
All of this happened while Congress was already debating whether to punish Omar. Some Republicans introduced a resolution to censure her, basically a formal punishment, and to remove her from some of her committee positions. The vote was very close, but it failed by just 1 vote. That means Omar kept her seat and her committee assignments. Still, another lawmaker filed an ethics complaint against her, so this fight isn't over yet. For people watching from Somalia and from Somali communities around the world, Trump's words stung. Somalia has been through tough times, but many Somalis are proud of their resilience. Families work hard, both inside Somalia and abroad, to send money home, rebuild schools, and help their communities survive. When Trump says Somalia has nothing, it feels like he is ignoring the efforts of millions of Somalis who are trying to build a better future. At the same time, Trump's comments show something important about U.S. politics. They reveal how foreign policy, immigration, and identity are all connected. Somalia, isn't just a country in the Horn of Africa, also home to a large diaspora community in the United States. In places like Minnesota, Somali-Americans are not just workers and business owners, they are politicians, activists, and community leaders. When Trump speaks about Somalia, he is also speaking, indirectly, about Somali-Americans. Beyond the words, there's also action. Since returning to the White House, Trump's administration has doubled the number of U.S. airstrikes in Somalia compared to the previous year. These strikes target al-Shabaab and Islamic State fighters. The Somali government, which relies heavily on U.S. military support, has welcomed many of these strikes. But human rights groups worry about the civilian cost. Recently, the U.S. military even stopped releasing public reports on civilian casualties, raising concerns about transparency. And then there's the bigger picture. Somalia's federal government recently offered the U.S. exclusive control over some air bases and ports, hoping to deepen military cooperation. But this is tricky, because some of those places are in Somaliland, a region in the north that declared independence in 1991. Somaliland governs itself and has its own elections, army, and currency, but it is not internationally recognized. Trump has hinted that the U.S. might consider recognizing Somaliland, which would be a huge shift in African politics and could anger Somalia's central government. So when we put it all together, here's what we see. Trump's harsh words about Somalia are not just insults. They are connected to a larger strategy military action in East Africa, political fights in Washington, and his rivalry with Ilhan Omar. For Trump supporters, his blunt style feels honest and tough. For his critics, it feels xenophobic and dismissive. For Somalis at home and abroad, it's a mix of pain and pride. Pain because their country is being mocked on the world stage. Pride because leaders like Ilhan Omar stand tall and refuse to be silenced, showing the strength of the Somali spirit. In the end, the story isn't only about Trump versus Omar. It's also about the future of Somalia, the role of Somali-Americans in U.S. politics, and how one leader's words can ripple across continents. As long as the U.S. is involved in Somalia through military strikes, diplomacy, or debates about recognition of Somaliland, Trump's remarks will carry weight far beyond American politics. And that's why this has been one of the most talked about stories of the past week. It touches on identity, on war and peace, on pride and insult, and on the question of who gets to define a country's worth. For now, the debate continues, in Washington, in Mogadishu, and in Somali communities across the globe.